I'm going to talk about how to find the area of a certain shape or polygon. But before I do that, I want to talk about one thing, okay? So we're going to talk about how to find the area using what's called a formula. Okay, a formula lets us utilize the information that we're given on the polygon and combined with our knowledge of what the polygon is to find the area of that polygon. Okay, so one thing that you need to have in your notes is you need to have a page, a separate page, that every time we talk about a formula in class, that you can add that formula to your notes. That way when you are doing the practice or taking the scrimmage or the game, when you come up to a shape, you can flip to that page and use these formulas to find the area of that shape. Okay, so before we start, just make sure that you have a separate page where you put, and at the top you can just put something like
formulas for geometry.
Okay, formulas for geometry. And that way you can put the formulas in every time you get another formula. Okay? So today what we are going to do is we're going to talk about area. And we talked about area a little bit in the previous video, and we talked about what area is. Area is finding the size of the surface of a shape. And one of the ways that we can do that, if we were to create a shape here,
one of the ways that we can do that is to
just count. In this case, we could just count how many squares, because we talked about square units. Each of these is a square unit. Okay, we don't know if it's inches or feet or miles, the unit, but we know, since it's not telling us, that we can just call it a square unit, and that's just these squares, these blue squares inside of this polygon. Okay, we could just count, since the grid is there, we could just count how many square units there are and figure out the area that way. But that's not a good long-term solution, because eventually the shape's going to be so big you're not going to be able to just count all the squares. It'd take you forever. So we need to be able to do it a little differently, and we're going to use what's called a formula. Okay, so in this case we have a polygon that's a square. Many of you may have noticed that it's a square, and the reason that it's a square, okay, the reason it is a square is because it has 4 equal sides and 4 90-degree angles. Okay, so every side is the exact same if we were to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This side is 8, which means this side is 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This side is 8 units long. Which makes this 8 and this 8. Okay, so each side is 8 units long. And that's the first reason it's a square. The second reason it's a square is that it has what we call 4 90-degree angles. 90-degree angles look like a perfect L. If we were to make an L here, okay, that's what a 90-degree angle looks like. And there are 4 of those 90-degree angles, okay, also known as right angles. It has 4 right angles. So we could add that in parentheses, right angles. Okay, 4 sides that are equal and 4 right angles. Okay, well, one of the ways that we can figure out area, like we talked about, we can just count all the squares, but that's really not very good use of our time, is to just count the squares. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a formula. Okay, the first formula for finding the area of a square is, and you can probably flip to the notes, you can have it in both places, the formula for a square, but if this is how I would do it. I would write a square, I would say square, then I would draw a square, okay, and I put 4 lines there because that tells me that each of those sides is the exact same length. And I also put little squares in the corners to show the 90-degree angles. Okay? And then I would write the formula. Okay? And the formula for a square is area equals length times width. Instead of putting that X, I'm going to put a dot like we did in algebra or expressions in equations. Length times width. Okay? We also write that A equals LW. Okay? A equals LW. That's most commonly the way you're going to see it. Remember, these are variables because we don't know what the area is, and right now, since it's a formula, we don't know what the length is. And W stands for width. We don't know what the width is yet because it's just a formula that we're going to use. Okay? When two variables are right next to each other, that means multiplication. So we don't have to put anything in between there. We can just write A equals LW, and that stands for area equals length times width. Okay, so if we use that formula, if we go back to our square, and we use A equals LW, or area equals length times width, okay, it's important that we show every step, okay, because eventually the formulas are going to get a little more difficult. So we want to practice showing the work. Practice showing the work. This is no different than anything else I talk about in here. If you know how to show the work, you will get the answers correct. It is more important to show your work than to just get the answer, okay? Well, this is a square, okay, so we're solving for area. We're solving for area of the square, and area, so we're going to find the size of the surface of this square. We're going to take the length. Well, the length is usually the longer side. It's usually the longer side, but all the sides are the same, so we're going to take 8, and the width is usually the shorter side of a square, or excuse me, of a polygon, okay? And the width is also 8. So area equals 8 times 8 is 64. Okay? And we don't know the units. Okay? So we can put just units. Squared. And the reason we put squared is because this is a two-dimensional shape. Okay? And we're counting, if you think about it, we're counting squares. Okay, so that's why we say 64 units squared, or 64 square units. Okay, so that's a square.
Okay. Let's try another one here. Oops.
So we're going to try another shape. Okay, another shape is called a rectangle. Okay, and a rectangle.
Okay, a rectangle looks like this. Okay, it has
Four 90-degree angles. It has four 90-degree angles. Okay? But not all sides are the same. Okay? 4 sides with four 90-degree angles, but not all the sides are equal. The opposite sides are equal. What do I mean by that? Okay, let me fix that. The opposite sides are equal. Okay, that means that this side is equal to this side, and this side is equal to this side. Okay, so we could drag that this way, and that's the same length. Okay, so the opposite sides are equal. The opposite side of this, opposite side of this green line is over here, and that's the same length. The opposite side of the red line is this side, and That's the same length. Okay, so the opposite sides are equal and it has four 90-degree angles. Okay, a rectangle is just like a square. It has the same formula. So we're going to go back to our formulas page and we're going to write that down. Okay. Okay.
So we're gonna write rectangle. Oops. A rectangle looks like this.
Okay, so this side is equal to this side. And I'll put two lines here and two lines here because this side is equal to that side. Opposite sides are equal. They also have four 90-degree or right angles as well. Okay? So the area, so the formula is area equals length times width. A equals LW. Okay? So if we go back here to our rectangle, we're going to find the area. Area equals length times width. We're going to use that formula. Area equals length. We're going to count this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is 11.
This side's 11 and this width, so that's the length. Our width is usually the shorter side, so 1, 2, 3. The width over here is 3. So area equals 11 times 3 is 33. Let's say that this was feet. Feet. We show feet with if we're going to show the short version, it's just one line. Okay? 11 feet. Okay? 11 feet squared. We always put that squared because that tells us we're finding area. Okay? We're finding the size of the surface of a two-dimensional shape. Okay? That's the formula for a rectangle. Okay? Same as a square. They're the same. Okay?